Welcome back to Michigan Sports Media Network. I have our Red Wings lead reporter, James Gullett, with us today. And unfortunately, our other reporter, Brad Thompson, will not be here. He's having some phone troubles, so let's all send him our prayers. We know how shitty that can be when you're stuck at a fucking AT&T or a Verizon or something for 3 hours trying to get your phone to work. So prayers up to you, Brad. Hopefully you'll be good to go for the next one. But with that being said, let's move on to some more positive stuff. The Detroit Pistons, baby. Detroit basketball is back. They just beat Miami in Miami, and obviously it's not the greatest Miami team. We know that, okay? They traded away Jimmy Butler. We're aware, okay? But the way that it happened, right? Cade Cunningham had a triple-double, 25 points, 11 rebounds and 12 assists, 11 rebounds, 12 assists, triple-double, baby, and he got it on prime time. And obviously he hit that beautiful game-winning shot off the inbound pass, at the top of the key, smack, game. See you next time. Miami, you lost. All right. This is a beautiful feeling as a Pistons fan, and as someone who gets to see them live next week, by the way. I'm going to the Spurs game. I know, okay, it sucks. I bought the Spurs tickets. Look, the problem is I bought them like a month ago, okay? And Wemby, literally when I bought them, I told my girlfriend, Wemby's going to get hurt. I know it, okay? Wemby got hurt, out for the year. And I'm like, damn, at least I get to see De'Aaron Fox. Hurt, out for the year. Okay, sweet. I love this. Stefon Castle, please do not get hurt. I do not want to have their only other good player out for the game. But with that being said, it should be a pretty easy dub for us, and that'll be awesome to see the Pistons win. But speaking of the Pistons winning, 116 to 113 in Miami, like I mentioned, and we are just moving up the playoff standings. I think we're only a few games back right now. Let me make sure of that. Of the 5 seed, I believe. The Milwaukee Bucks are currently in the 5 seed. We are in the 6. We are, half a game back right now. We have 39 wins to their 38, but we have 31 losses to their 30. So it's really close. Pacers also have 39 wins with 29 losses. So just, as the season goes, we're kind of going to get closer and figure out what our standings are going to be. But with that being said, there are rumors going around that the Knicks are hoping and praying they get Detroit. And I'll tell you what, that would be a mistake, New York. Jalen Brunson probably isn't going to be back for that first round. And even if he is, he's not going to be 100. That was pretty rough. But with that being said, Karl Anthony Towns ain't going to do it by himself. And I'll tell you right now, who is going to guard Cade? OG Anunoby, I guess. That's about it. Malik Beasley, catch and shoot, baby, all night long. And I just feel the Pistons would do some good work on the Knicks if they don't got Brunson. With Brunson, I don't want the smoke. I'm not going to lie. With Brunson, the Knicks got it. All right, they'd probably win that series. And that's why I really don't want to see them or Milwaukee round 1. I would really prefer to see the Pacers. And if we move up to, 4, we could see the Hawks or something like that, which would be perfect. I think we could actually win the playoff series if that happens. But we'll see what happens there as the season goes on. We'll get Jaden Ivey back at some point, hopefully within the next month or so. I know they just said they're going to reevaluate him after I think it was 4 weeks, and that was last week. So he's got another 3 weeks before another evaluation, which means he's probably not that close to returning right now. Hopefully he's just back for the playoffs. I'm fine if he's not back for the regular season. Don't really rush him. But we need you for the playoffs, Jaden. It was a gruesome injury, though, so the fact that he's even coming back this season is kind of cool. But with that being said, that's all we got on the Pistons today, unfortunately. There is not too much going on the NBA front outside of some playoff standing stuff. So we're going to move on now to the Detroit Red Wings, and we have James Gullett with us here, of course. So I will pass it on over to him so he can have the floor on this one.
Thank you, Jace. Hey, Hockey Town. Since we last spoke, the only thing that really we have missed is an unfortunate another defeat at the hands of the Washington Capitals. It's not a game that I expected us to win, to be fair, so I'm not really um, too beat up about that, but of course, as we played them last time, I was hoping for a better result. We did get out to a 2-0 lead the last time before blowing it. This time, however, we barely got started, if you can even call it that. We fell 4-1. We were really never in it. We had a bunch of miscues. We were playing sloppy, and it's just a shame to see. Like I said, it's not something I expected to win from the get-go, but I at least expected a little bit better performance than that. I know moral victories are useless right now, but I was at least hoping against one of, if not the top team in the league, we can at least look respectable. Peter Mrazek got the start in net again, his fourth straight start. I don't know if he's going to be starting the next game or not. 5 in a row is a bit much, and he's kind of come back down to earth. He's always been a hot or cold goalie. I don't know if that's why Yzerman traded for him to begin with, because there's times where, for I'd say a 7 to 8 game stretch, where he might look like a top 10 goalie in the league and stop almost everything that comes his way. And then there's the other side of it where, as I said on a previous podcast, that he allowed 10 goals in 80 minutes of play. So like he's either hot or not, and he's 2-2 as a Red Wings starting goalie. So I mean, it's a crapshoot. I mean, it is what it is. The next 3 games are all on the road. We are on a bit of uh, let's say the opposite of a homestand. We got the Las Vegas Golden Knights coming up. Last time we played them last week, we shut them out 3-0 thanks to Mrazek. But that was an LCA. This time we're going to go in their arena. I know they're going to be wanting revenge for that game. Once again, don't know if Mrazek's going to start a 5th game in a row, but it is against the team he shut out last week, so who knows? After that, we go on to Utah to play the Utah Hockey Club, which won't be called that much longer. There was just a report today that they are deciding between 2 final names. And then lastly, the very next game after that, or I should say the very next day after that, we take on the Colorado Avalanche, which is going to be a very difficult game, being the second day of a back-to-back. That is not an easy opponent to come off, especially with travel. There is no travel day between. We play in Utah one day, and the very next day we're in Colorado playing the Avalanche, who is a damn good team. Uh, well, then we come back home and face the number one wild card team, the Ottawa Senators. That's Thursday, March 27th. I am hoping to bring them good luck because, as Jace mentioned about going to a Pistons game, I will be in attendance for that Ottawa Senators game on the 27th. I am 0-1 in the last game I attended for last season, but that was last year and this is this year. So hopefully we can spark something else. But that is going to be, especially with this close playoff race, the game of the year in terms of most valuable. Every game is valuable. There are 8 teams all within striking distance of the last 2 playoff spots. And surprisingly, even with the way we've been playing, the Wings are in there. Now, they are currently ranked 6 out of those 8 teams, so we are not towards the top, but we are within striking distance of the second wild card spot as long as we turn it around. And Ottawa right now is that number one wild card team, so that would be a great 4 point swing, kind of like a division win in football. Um, there will be, oh yeah, for now, they do sit sixth in the wild card. There's 8 teams that are within 6 points of each other. Some have games in hand on the others. I don't know why NHL does their scheduling this way. I thought they would at least be close to one another, but Pittsburgh is 1 point behind the Wings, but have one more game played. Ottawa and Montreal, the current 2 wildcard teams, they are both currently ahead of Detroit in points, and they both have a game in hand on the Wings. So the Wings have less time to catch those two, and they both hold the tiebreakers over the Wings for regulation wins as well. So we are going to need to pick up our pace as well as hope for other teams around the league to help us catch back up in these standings. Otherwise, I just don't see it happening. And time is ticking. We are down to, I believe it's 13 or 14 games left. And that does sound like a lot, and I know that leaves a lot of points at hand, but it's something almost bordering on um, like the last 2 weeks of an NFL season where I know they only play 17 games, but each week can have drastic changes in the standings. A team you expect to be hot gets cold. A team you expect to be cold gets hot. But I mean, that kind of will tie us into a little bit of our March Madness talk, which we'll talk about here in a minute, because you never really know what's going to happen or who's going to beat who or what's going to happen. But with that being said, obviously, I am looking forward to being in attendance for the next Red Wings home game. I'm looking forward to it being a critical and pivotal game for our season. And with that, I will throw it back to you, Jace.
If you're watching this, it's because you love sports. If you love sports, why not show that love with some new gear, like the two jerseys behind me? Fanatics has a lot of stuff on sale right now, and if you go down in the description, click the link of whatever team that you want, it'll take you to the Fanatics page, buy some stuff, and we get a small portion. It'll help us out, and you'll get some discounts on some good gear. Yeah, and that's a good point. And I like how you added in the March Madness stuff there at the end because that's exactly what we're going to next. And we all love March Madness. It is like the second biggest sports thing in America to the Super Bowl, I think. It's like there are people who have never watched college basketball in their lives making brackets. People talking about it. You know, they're gonna be talking about these games for the next what month. I mean, it literally takes over the United States for an entire month. That's why it's called March Madness. But with that being said, luckily, both Michigan and Michigan State have made the tournament, which normally they do. Michigan is a 5 seed facing UC San Diego tonight at 10 p.m. And Michigan State is a 2 seed, and they are facing Bryant, a 15 seed, at, let's see here, at tomorrow at 10 p.m. Great. Thanks for fucking us Michiganders. Awesome. I love that. Oh, people in Michigan who have to work in the fucking morning while people on the West Coast, it's fucking 8 p.m. They're like, hey, when your teams are on, you gotta be in bed, brother. Yeah, okay, you pieces of shit. All right. Anyway, sorry for that derogatory language there, but that just kind of pisses me off, you know? And anyway, so with that being said, to celebrate Michigan and Michigan State both making it, I've got a beer. Miller High Life, the champagne of beers, the beer of beers, the best beer that doesn't cost more than $5. That's all I'm saying, all right? I appreciate you. Now, with that being said, I'm not going to talk too much about Michigan and Michigan State right now because we have another podcast that you can check out where our lead Tigers reporter actually had a interview with a we'll call him a Michigan State insider. He worked for Michigan State basketball team for quite a while. So he knows his stuff, and hopefully he can give some insight into Tom Izzo because he was there with Izzo. So it's a pretty cool conversation, and I hope you guys check it out because I think you would enjoy it. With that being said, let's talk about a little non-Michigan stuff for a second. We got some upsets already, boys. So far, Creighton upset Louisville, which some people wouldn't have called that an upset, really. I mean, I picked Louisville. I said Louisville and then Louisville. See, I'm just a dumbass. Anyway, so which one is it? Like, honestly, which one is it? I don't know. Louisville? I've always said Louisville, but then, like, people are like, no, bro, it's Louisville. And it's like, okay, are we fucking in Kentucky? Is that how you say it in Kentucky? I don't understand. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a dumbass, I guess. Genuinely, I don't know how to say it. So we're just going to run with Louisville because that just feels right. Excuse me. So anyway, Louisville got upset by Creighton by, 14 points. And I'll tell you what, when I was watching this game, this was the only game because I was at work during it. The only game I got to watch the full first half of. The other ones I got bits and pieces, but I work at a school, so you know sometimes we get them games on. But I could just tell the game was tied, but Creighton was the better team. It was obvious to me. I think I even tweeted about it about how Louisville just looks kind of lost, bad IQ plays and all that kind of stuff. So that one kind of felt obvious once the game started. But then we have oh shit, who else was it? McNeese upset Clemson by 2 points. Now, the end score does not tell you what really happened in this game. McNeese totally led the way in this game. They had it the whole time. but Clemson came back in the last like minute and hit like 5 threes to bring it within like I think it was 4 points, and then they scored a layup right at the end. Clemson did to get it to 2 points. So that end score is a little bit of a lie there. But outside of that, we really didn't have any upsets. You know, Auburn over Alabama State, BYU over VCU, Wisconsin over Montana, Houston over SIU Edwardsville. I believe, yeah, Purdue over High Point. Not a lot of upsets. So it's been fun so far, but it's not one of those, you know, the 16 team beats the 1 seed so far. It could happen still. There are some of those games to come. So that will wrap up our, you know, March Madness part. And like I said, if you want to hear more of Michigan State specific, and just more in depth about March Madness, go check out that podcast. It's an hour 20 of just March Madness talk, guys. I think you'd really enjoy it. So I really, really, really don't click off this video right now. Wait till the end. Watch till the end. But then go watch the other one. Spend 3 hours with us. It'll be fun, I promise. Anyway, so moving on, we're going to move into some Lions talk, okay? Not a lot's happened. We know that. Brad Holmes has not been out here fucking, you know, making moves like he's fucking... I wanted to say something I shouldn't, so I'm just going to move on. Anyway, so Brad Holmes is not out here, you know, throwing money wherever and making shit happen. However, what he's doing is right, make it rain, baby. What he's doing is basically we're making smaller moves, and I think that's what Super Bowl teams do. If I'm being honest, like obviously the Eagles just won the Super Bowl and they made some bigger moves, but I don't even know if they signed somebody to the same amount of money we gave DJ Reed. So realistically, we probably made a bigger move than they did in free agency so far, and they lost more than we did in free agency. Think about that. We lost Carlton Davis. They lost Milton Williams and Josh. Josh Sweat. I don't know how I thought Pascal for some reason just popped in my head, but he plays for us. So they lost some guys in free agency, so they kind of had to make a little bit more moves in total to fill those holes. Like, you know, they signed Aziz Ojulari. However, the Lions have been making some solid moves too, and you know, we've talked about most of them throughout this podcast. And if you want to hear about it as they come, go listen to our old stuff. We have it all clipped out, so if you just want to hear that, you can find the Lions clips. We'll talk about whatever signings they made throughout every episode. So check that out. For now, they just signed corner Rock Ya-Sin. Now, this one right here is... a lot of people are confused, I think. A lot of people are going, why'd we sign this guy? Who is he? He's a bum, whatever the case may be. Okay, he's a pretty good guy. He's a pretty good corner. Okay, he's pretty young. All right, I think he's only 26, 27 right now. He's pretty young. He's not going to be a starter, guys. Like, this is... you guys have been talking shit about Kindle Vildor for fucking 2 years. This is the guy that's replacing him. So, you know, I mean, he's better. He is. And that's what you should want. It's not all about, oh, we're going to go sign the best player available. It's about getting guys that fit your team and what you need. And Rock Ya-Sin is a very, very solid cornerback 4. I mean, I'd say even cornerback 3 possibly. But as a CB4, perfect. And we got him for pretty cheap. I'm sure the details haven't come out yet, I don't think. At least I haven't seen them if they did. But with that being said, I mean, this is a pretty solid signing. Good depth. He's a gritty guy, as James said on Twitter. He is a very like Lions type of player. But then, you know, what was the other move we made today, James? Do you remember? Oh, we re-signed Khalil Dorsey. That's what it was. Yeah. Okay, so we got another depth corner who can play special teams, and that's kind of what we're doing right now. We're adding good depth to the team. You know, we've re-signed a lot of our like Trevor Nowaski, Ezekiel Turner, Anthony Pittman, Mitchell Agude. Who else? We signed Isaac. Is it Ukwu? Am I saying that wrong? And
Mine won't be any better than
he's
that.
he's he's a obviously more of a depth player. All these guys are, but that's what you do. I mean, they all played pretty well when they needed to last year. So I feel okay about free agency so far, but I'll hold my full thoughts for a little bit later. So for now, I'll pass it over to James for his thoughts on the Rocky Sin signing and the Khalil Dorsey signing.
I mean, to me, you hit the nail on the head. Rocky Sin is absolutely the Vildor replacement. I expect him to be corner four. I do not see him, uh, and I'm not saying this to try to badmouth him or put him down. I don't see him competing with Arnold or Rakestraw or those guys. He's the depth piece at this point. I did see, I think we all see, but I did see on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, some people saying like, "Oh, he's a Lion now, so he's the best corner out there. So good thing we improved." And I'm like, he is better than Vildor, in my opinion. He is definitely better than Vildor against the run. He is physical. He is, and for those who may have not seen it, I retweeted it. Come check me out on my X profile at Gullet_James, and I retweeted him flipping Amon-Ra St. Brown on a run block attempt. So kudos to St. Brown because Sin does not make the play, but it made for an interesting highlight. I'll just say that. Go check it out if you haven't already, or maybe you just remember it from when it happened. But there is a reason that we are his, if I'm not mistaken, we're his fourth team. We might be his third team because he was a Colt or Raven. He was drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars. And
Played for the
yeah,
Niners.
so and he's the 49ers. So we're his fifth team, and he was drafted in 2019. So, I mean, five teams in 6, 7 years. Um, he's a former high second round pick. He was 34th overall. So he has talent and he has a place. I mean, there's a reason why five teams wanted him. I mean, on one end, even I've asked the question when a free agent bounces around, why does no team want to keep him? But at the same time, it seems like all these teams want him at least. I don't think he's going to be a giant difference maker, but he is a solid depth piece. Cleo Dorsey, as you mentioned, we don't see him on the field too often in terms of defense, but he is a damn good special teams player. We are loaded up. I'm spacing on the guy's name from the Colts that we signed, the linebacker with the long hair. It's going to give
Grant Stewart.
Alex Anz- thank you. He's going to give Alex Anzalone a run for his money on the best hair now. But we're signing a lot of special teams players and core special teamers. I know it sucks we lost Jalen Reeves-Maybin, who is a pretty damn good special teams player in his own right, but we signed him to a decently big contract that he also dabbled at linebacker, and it just wasn't in the cards with the money. Anyways, um, but to the fans that are pulling their hair out, relax. If you're like Aaron Rodgers, just relax. We don't need, and you can even go back because I'm gonna contradict myself, which sometimes I do because it depends on what headspace I'm in that day. I'm gonna contradict myself from some of the earlier episodes where I wanted to go all out and I wanted to go get um, Garrett or some of these like all-time great names and everything. And that's just not how you build your team. Injuries happen, as the Lions know better than everyone. We need guys that can come in and play. Rocky Sin played, I believe it was 14 games for the 49ers last year. So he's played plenty of football. He's got plenty of experience. He's not afraid to hit. They just let Brad Holmes cook. Not every player is going to be a household name. Not every signing is going to be, yep, that's the guy that I'm going to go out there and buy season tickets for, but each signing matters. And if I, how do I want to, if you want to win the off season, go be a Bears fan because they tend to win the off season every year. And Brad Holmes built this 15-2 team. We don't need to make splash signings. We don't need to make any earth-shattering moves or breaking news headlines. We just need to get healthy, bring as much of the team back as we can. Of course, we did lose a handful of players, and just let the guys do their job and get to work. We have a damn good team, and I don't want to. further this too much because I understand I am long-winded, but you did bring up the Eagles with losing people. They also lost Gardner Johnson, who they have to replace still. Who I mean,
Mhm.
fuck him, but who they have to replace still. And the Eagles, who just won the Super Bowl, by the way, obviously, in case you were under a rock, and the Lions are built very similarly. And I might even make a separate video on this topic because I know a lot of people on X, where is my main social media, my main presence online, always say, why can't the Lions do moves like the Eagles? The Eagles just won the Super Bowl, blah, blah, blah. I think these two teams are very similar in how they are built and what they are doing. And like I said, I might be doing a second video. That way I can go in depth and not waste more time on this podcast here because they're not too far off. Like I know we got bounced in the first round. We didn't, well, technically second round. We didn't win a playoff game and they won it all. But if you look at the landscape, they are pretty damn close.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And I'm kind of gonna take it back a little bit there for what you said about Jalen Reeves-Maben because a lot of people aren't thinking about this, but the money we saved about $2.2 million when we cut Jalen Reeves-Maben. We signed Grant Stewart for 1 year, probably, I think it was about $1 million. Signed Trevor Nowaske for 1 year, about $1 million. So we just got a 2 for 1, if you think about it that way. And um, also, and that'll kind of segue into our next conversation point. But also, I like how you're coming to terms with the fact that teams are built a certain way. They're not built by making splashes. You know what I mean? Because I wish a lot more people would think about that. And that was a good point you made about how we were 15-2 last year, and yeah, we didn't win a playoff game. Obviously, we all know, but like at the same time, our fucking defense was hurt the whole thing. Not just a couple guys. The whole fucking thing. All of them. Like, we literally were, I think, without 9 of 11 starters at one point. Like, that's insane, dude. Like, that's just crazy. And now we have people online who, as Lions fans, just watched that happen. They just said, the Lions don't have depth. We don't have, good players at backup positions. What does Brad do? Oh, he signs good players at backup positions. And what do? Bitch about it. Gotcha. Makes sense. Like, what the fuck? I don't even understand what is going through people's brains sometimes. Like, I genuinely think they're just one track minded. We got to win a Super Bowl before I die. If we don't, it's all not worth it. You know what I mean? I've been a Lions fan for 60 years, and if they don't, blah, 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 it's our only chance. It's like, I get it, man. But like you said, RELAX, buddy. Fucking drink a beer, have a fucking cig, or whatever it is that gets you through the day, and just chill. All right. Now, our next point, and I kind of skipped over a little bit here, but our next point is Lions free agency as a whole, I think, was pretty good. Obviously, there's still a lot to come, but we've been doing a good job with depth signings. We signed another starting corner to replace Carlton Davis. We've done a good job at re-signing the guys we want. Levi Onwuzurike, and a lot of other depth guys too. Marcus Davenport came for cheap, so if he's healthy, he could play pretty well. I feel pretty good, and to keep this kind of shorter because I do have an article coming on about this pretty soon. I think Brad's been doing a good job, and I'm gonna kind of, like I said, pretty much every podcast we have. My judgment will be reserved until after the draft. Once the draft is over, then we have a real idea of how this roster is supposed to look. Who knows what he's gonna do, man? He might trade our second round pick for somebody. He might trade up for somebody. I don't fucking know. I mean, shit, we drafted a running back 2 years ago when everybody was certain we were drafting a fucking defensive lineman or whatever the case may be. We drafted Jameer Gibbs when running back wasn't even a thought. Oh, we got fucking DeAndre Swift and we got fucking Jamal Williams. Well, Glenn, look what we did. Now we got Monty. Now we got Jameer. That's how Brad does this shit, okay? Chill out. Let it all play out, okay? With that being said, let's talk about our upcoming cap space. Okay, so I saw on Lions Royalty on Twitter today posted that the Lions have about $5 million in cap space next year. Obviously, that'll probably be a little bit different based on the cap going up, but it's not going to be 30 million. It's not going to go up $25 million. That's just not like that realistic. So what's got to happen is restructures. Goff has to restructure. He's got a $70 million cap hit in 2026. People, Taylor Decker, he needs to restructure. He's getting like I think it's a 22 or $23 million cap hit. And then we probably need to cut some guys. But if we do all of that stuff, we can clear up $60 million. But that's why Brad's not making these big deals. He cannot do it. We literally cannot afford it. We can't go give Josh Sweat $19 million for 4 seasons. Why? Because we will not be able to afford him next year. That's just how this is going to work. And that's why I'm in the boat of Von Miller, baby. 1 year, 12, 14 million. Bring him home. Get us a guy to go across from Hutch. Draft one too, because we're going to still need one. But that means we don't need so much out of our rookie. So I just feel it's pretty obvious, where we have to go from here. Obviously we have to sign a couple more guys, some depth guys, especially edge rusher. We need to sign I would say maybe another receiver or draft one at least. We still need to add depth kind of all over the field. So let's see how the draft plays out. Let's see how everything goes. I feel pretty confident still. I mean, what, 4 years ago, dude, we had 3 wins. We just had 15. Like, I feel pretty good. So with that being said, I'll pass it over to you, James, and floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a great point. I just brought up some other cap space hits for the 2025 season. And there's a few names on this list that, like you said, I don't know because of their number if they'll be with the team. We can make some cuts here or there. I'm not even going to name names because I looked at it for about 20 seconds and don't want to make a fool of myself. But there will be the one question that came to the top of my head. Sorry, I can't speak right now. You mentioned the running backs. You mentioned that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I'll say three to be on the safe side, we had Swift and Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams set the all-time Lions record for touchdowns in the season. Swift often hurt, but always had exciting, big, flashy plays. And fast forward 2 years, and both of those guys are out of town. We don't have either of them. We have two new guys, and they are both better. And I think it's pretty undeniably better. Gibbs is healthier and faster, and I mean, I'm just going to end it there because I can talk all day about how much better Gibbs is. And Montgomery is a damn good power back, but he's not just a power back. He had that 75-yard run. I think it was not last season, but the year before against the Chargers. Like they both can be bell cows if need be. When Montgomery got hurt, Gibbs filled in and was the bell cow. I know we gave a handful of handoffs to Craig Reynolds, who, by the way, we did re-sign one of these days. I can't remember if we talked about that on the last episode or not. He's back. I thought it was decently expected. Long story short, and getting to where I was going with, there is a free agent running back that I am curious about. And like I said many times, call, just see what he wants. Because running back is not a position of need by any means. But Brad likes to update the roster if he can update the roster. And there is a pretty often injured free agent running back that on a short term cheap deal due to his injuries, I would be really, really curious on what he can do potentially behind this D line. Oh, what are you shaking your finger at?
It's Nick Chubb, isn't it?
It is exactly Nick Chubb.
I knew it the minute you said there's a free agent running back. I was like, it's got to be Nick Chubb, man. And then you said the injuries, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's Nick.
Yeah.
That's Nick. He's my
Like
favorite running back. Like, I love him, so I'd love him here.
and I was looking over a list of top free agents, and I saw his name. I'm like, holy shit, I forgot all about him being like not retained or whatever. And I know he's always hurt. I know he had a devastating knee injury. I mean, I don't want to even breathe into that part of my head. But if he, wants a job, because currently he's a free agent, I don't think anyone is going to give him top dollar, which he deserves if healthy. But if he can come in here and just kind of be our three, just get his feet wet, take a handful of reps, he doesn't have to be the guy. We don't have to make him come back off his devastating injury and give him 25 carries a game. Just kind of mix him in a little bit, get his feet wet. I mean, when healthy, he's a top 2 or 3 running back in the league. So if he's willing to take a 1 or 2 year deal I do mean pennies. I'm talking 1 or 2 million a season. I doubt he would even take it, but just pick up the phone, give it a call, see what happens. I haven't heard his name attached to any teams at all. I haven't heard anyone talking about him. And like I said, I realize we don't even have a need there, but if you can add Nick Chubb as your running back three, why the hell not? Why the hell not? Like I said, if he's willing. But right now he's unemployed, so some paycheck is better than no paycheck. Maybe he's going to wait mid-season, wait for a good team to see if they have an injury or something. But like that's a name that I personally will be keeping an eye on closely from this point on.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you brought him up because I wouldn't hate it. But that injury, man, I think is part of the reason why teams aren't necessarily like falling over themselves to get him. Also because it's such a deep running back class. I think there could be potential like where there's smoke, there's fire there with that one because I could see nobody offer him really anything. And I mean, if you'd would you rather go to like fucking Tennessee to be their backup running back for like 3 mil, 4 mil, or would you rather come to Detroit for two? I mean, I don't know. It just seems like you'd want to win at that point, having been in Cleveland your whole career. So I really like that point, and I wouldn't be against that by any means for the right price, as you said. But with that being said, now we will kind of, transition a little bit to more NFL, and I'm glad you brought up Nick Chubb as someone who we really haven't heard about because Stefon Diggs, man, I feel like before like what was it today or yesterday it was announced that he's got a visit people just forgot about him like genuinely it was like Chris Godwin, Devontae Adams, the big names in wide receiver free agency this year, and I know he's coming off a big injury, don't get me wrong, but I'm talking if you're a team like fucking New England, you don't have a wide receiver that's really, for lack of a better term, worth a shit. I mean they're decent guys, but they're all, it's like your whole team's wide receiver threes right now. And I mean, Douglas might be a two, but like still, that's kind of rough when you got a young quarterback like that. Why not go sign Stephon Diggs to a 1 year, $10 million, $12 million, maybe even $15 million deal? I mean, probably closer to 15 with how much money Cooper Kupp got. Because when he was healthy, I mean, he was still playing well, and it's not like one of those injuries where it's not the fucking 1980s anymore, guys. You tear your ACL, you can usually come back the next season and be pretty good. So, and I know he's older, so it's going to be a little different, but still, I mean, I would feel confident that a 1 year deal with how much money the Patriots have or the Panthers have, just do it. Why not? See what happens. But with that being said, speaking of other older guys coming off of an injury, Aaron Rodgers, which I know he's not coming off of an injury this year, but just tore his Achilles. Minnesota completely out. They don't want anything to do with him. From what I've heard, they are essentially going to they're going to test the waters on JJ McCarthy's injury. So, if he doesn't look good by, probably the like close to the draft, they will look to sign a veteran. Only because they don't want to rush him back. And I don't see Rodgers waiting that long personally, and I don't see the Giants or the Steelers waiting that long for Rodgers. So I would say Rodgers probably goes to Pittsburgh sometime in the next like 3 weeks. I don't know if it'll be next week. It'll probably be closer to the third week because I see Rodgers kind of dragging this out a little bit. Um, but it looks like, the Giants or the Steelers are still in on him. I just think it feels obvious you go to the Steelers if that's your choices. I mean, they just traded for DK Metcalf. They've got a damn good defense. So you go there and you might be able to win something. You go to fucking New York. Good luck, buddy. They're going to be starting a rookie in 3 weeks. Like shit, and you ain't going to win nothing. So you're going to be making 30 million, but you're going to be sitting on the bench losing. But with that being said, Russell Wilson is another option for these teams too. So, the longer Rodgers waits, likely he's going to lose a spot. And it's likely Pittsburgh, which is where I would say both of them want to go. And obviously Russ had his Cleveland interview, which that could be a thing. I don't really know how serious that is, but that could be real. Where there's smoke, there's fire on that one, I guess. So then we have the Trey Hendrickson stuff. Not too much has changed on that front. They want a first round pick, and after signing T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, they want to keep him. And like I just told you, the Lions have $5 million in caps around there in cap space next year. So that's not going to happen. We're not going to trade for him and then pay him $30 million. We just can't do that. We literally cannot. So that ship has sailed, folks. And then with that being said, James, I'll pass it over to you if you have anything to add about those things, and then we will wrap it up with some NFC North conversation.
The only thing I have to touch on, and you kind of segued it perfectly, is I did read right before we came on. It's literally posted on Bleacher Report 27 minutes ago. So it's actually during when I was looking up some of the other stats that Stephon Diggs and the Patriots have been in contact. It says there is no deal imminent, but they have reached out. So I mean, right there, you hit the nail on the head with that one already. And then, as you were saying, it did space my mind and a good segue into the NFC North potential news with Rodgers being out in Minnesota. Unfortunately, I would have loved for him to follow that Favre arc so much. But with them potentially looking at veteran free agent quarterbacks if JJ's not ready to go, or if they just want to sign one to have a kind of a mentor for the young quarterback. The name I heard linked to Minnesota to watch out for is Carson Wentz. So, I mean, just wanted to throw a name out there to put a name to the report. But that's the name that I heard being linked to Minnesota.
Yeah, and I've definitely heard that too. And honestly, it kind of makes sense. I mean, Carson backed up Mahomes last year and had a couple games where he played in. So I could see that as a mentor type guy. That's just one of those moves where it's like, okay, this is our backup. We're not even gonna like think about him starting. And I will say, I mean, I still think Carson Wentz is a mediocre quarterback, but he can spot start and things like that. So if JJ's not ready the first few weeks, I think you could be okay with Carson. Obviously, it's not ideal though. But with that being said, actually, perfect segue. Let's go into the Vikings free agent signing so far. So obviously, they have been very active. Okay, they've made trades. They've done pretty much everything in free agency that their fans have asked of them. And it starts with they really, really shored up their defensive and offensive lines. They signed the guard Will Freeze or Fries, whichever. I think it's Freeze though. Will Freeze
Freeze.
from the Colts. Yep. And then also Ryan Kelly from the Colts. So they basically took the Colts center and guard away from them. They signed Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen. They signed a couple DBs. They re-signed Byron Murphy to a huge $22 million per year deal. Re-signed Aaron Jones. Traded for Jordan Mason. Signed a punter. A couple DBs, like I said. Isaiah Rodgers should be pretty good for them, actually. He might even be a starter over there. And, I mean, in all, they traded away their right guard for a pick, which, I mean, they got something for him, which is solid. And they re-signed Eric Wilson, or not re-signed, but brought him back. Jeff Okuda they brought in. Rondale Moore they brought in. I mean, they're out here just making fucking moves, man. And I'll tell you what, I like them. I like most of the moves they've made. It makes sense. They get a new guard, they trade their old one. You know, sign a new center, cut their old one. They just upgraded a lot of positions this offseason. And personally, as a Lions fan, I'm not scared, but I'm trepidatious, okay? I don't feel great about the NFC North next year. We had to beat them in the last game of the year to win it last year, right? And this was when They didn't have all these guys. So I know everybody's saying, oh, you don't win the offseason doesn't win you games. It does if you fucking get better as a football team. I don't know what else to say about that. You do win games by winning the offseason as long as your team got better. And I think the Vikings did. Like, at the end of the day. Like, so don't give me, listen, you ready? I feel that the offseason is the only way to build a team. How else do you do it? Anybody got, you know what I'm saying? Is there another way? Trades in the season is the only other thing you can even do. So it's like, literally, you build your team in the offseason. The problem is a lot of the teams that win the offseason, it's because they overpaid some guy that's not worth it. That's not really what I'm talking about. That shit, we know that's not a good way to build a team. I'm talking they made good moves for. They overpaid a couple guys. Don't get me wrong. Like Jonathan Allen getting $15 million a year, did not see that coming. Or was it 20? Yeah, he got 20 and Javon Hargrave got 15. So I don't love the money, but at the end of the day, they got better as a team, got better in the trenches, pretty much got better all over. So I'm not a huge fan of that as a Lions fan. And I will say the fact that we haven't really done much to upgrade our team from last year kind of worries me because we have a harder schedule. The NFC North's getting tougher. So I just hope we can stay healthy and, keep this thing going. But with that being said, I'll pass it over to you if you have anything to say about the Vikings.
About the Vikings, per usual, you hit the nail on the head. They are better than they were. Like I don't think there's any doubt on paper, assumingly, on the field as well. Don't know that until we see them. Hopefully, the guys can mesh well together. There's without a doubt they upgraded their O line, like you said, with Kelly and Freeze. But I'm not afraid of them. I'm not. I'm trying to find the right adjective. Like they're you got to take note of them. You cannot ignore them. They're not pushovers by any means, but like bring them on. I'm not worried about them either. We had, and it's kind of kicking the dead horse already, but we had so many injuries. We had so many, and who's to say? And I'd never root for injuries. I don't care if you're a rival team or not. Who's to say the Vikings don't have 20 guys on IR next year? Who's to say the Bears don't or anyone else? If everyone's healthy, even though the Vikings are a good team, I just think we are better, and that is setting aside my fandom for the Lions. Like they did get better, but they needed to get better. I feel like they over succeeded last year of what their expectations were. I thought they were going to be a good team. I predicted them to win more than 10 games, but I did not say 14. So I feel like they did better than what they should have last year. And even if they grow from where they were, their standard would be like 12. If I had them at 10 last year, they're better. They did. So I'm like, I'm not going to say they're a playoff team, wild card division, something, but I'm not fearing them. I'm not saying, oh shit, here come the Vikings. And I do love JJ. As a huge Michigan fan, I was quite pissed off when the Vikings got him with Hutch and Jefferson. And for a rookie quarterback, he's going to have the best situation I think I've ever seen a rookie quarterback walk into. They have all the weapons. They've had them in the past years. This offseason, as you mentioned, they upgraded their O line. So we'll see what happens, but we're still the Lions. Like, I'll end it with that.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Like you said, they do have a new quarterback who has not played a game in the NFL yet. And they did overachieve last year. Nobody saw them winning 14 games, but that's why I'm a little scared, a little trepidatious, because if they won 14 with the team they had last year and they got better, odds say they win more games. Obviously, they probably won't. I'm not saying they'll go 16-0 or anything like that, but I'm saying like logic tells you they will be better than they were last year, and they still kind of whooped our ass in the first half. That first game last year, they got us. You know what I'm saying? And that's all I'm saying, really. I'm not like oh my gosh, we're going to lose the NFC North. I just feel maybe Lions fans on Twitter shouldn't be so confident in their shit talk. But I
Yes.
digress. Um, with that being said, let's talk about something a little more positive. The Packers. They ain't done shit. Okay? Nate Hobbs is a solid addition. I like him. I wanted him to be on the Lions. Other than that, they overpaid a guard and signed Mecole Hardman. Great. You got another wide receiver four. I'm so fucking happy for you, Green Bay. Great job out there. Now, the problem with that is they don't have a wide receiver one. They have Jaden Reed, who's a low level wide receiver one. He's a really good wide receiver two though. I mean, if you have him as your second guy on a team, you got a pretty good receiving core, I think. But the problem is they gave way too much money to that guard. He's a solid player, but he's not amazing. I mean, I like him, but I don't love him, you know. I just feel they didn't do great in the offseason this year so far, which bodes well for us. I mean, they're not really, adding too much to that team, and most likely they're going to not have Jair Alexander. Obviously, there's been rumors either way on that, so I'm not going to come to any conclusions there, but my assumption is he probably won't play for the Packers next year. But with that being said, I'll pass it over to you if you got anything for the Packers.
Oh, no, not really. Obviously, still have the draft to go. We still have um, all the, I'll say the second wave of free agent signings. I feel at this point, teams are now just banking on the draft, hoping to get a receiver, a running back, et cetera, et cetera. And then if they don't, if the board doesn't fall the way they wanted it to, then they will hit free agency again to kind of fill whatever remaining holes they couldn't in the draft. So there's still a fair amount of team building left to be done, but at this point in time, I have the Packers, for what it's worth, finishing dead last in this division by its pretty sizable margin. Things can happen from now till then that will change it, but I think the Vikings and Bears ran away from them this offseason, and the Lions were ahead of them to begin with, and in my opinion, had a better offseason as well. So the Packers might be looking at the NFC North basement right now.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. I would definitely agree with that. Just based on the offseason so far, and obviously, like you said before, we have to see what it looks like on the field. But and that's a good segue because the Bears they did pretty well so far too. I mean, if you just look at on paper, like you said, the Packers are the worst team in the division, and that's saying something because they're not a bad football team. They're just not keeping up with the other guys. And I mean, it's hard to when the Bears do as many moves as they did in free agency. Signing Grady Jarrett. They traded for Jonah Jackson and Joe Tooney. They signed Odeyingbo, and then they also signed Drew Dahlman. Really, really kind of similar to what the Vikings have done. They also signed a couple, depth guys, but similar to what the Vikings have done. They're trying to get better on both sides of the ball. They're trying to, flesh out the line of scrimmage there by adding, an O lineman and two D linemen, and well, actually, they traded for two other O linemen, so their interior O line is completely different. Their interior D line is probably going to be completely different, which again doesn't bode well for us because they weren't great last year and still gave us some troubles. So, and that's the good and fun part about the NFC North is it's the black and blue division, man. Like this shit ain't easy. It never has been and it never will be. Okay, the Packers had a pretty good run for like 4 years where nobody was really fucking with them, but now it's anybody's division, man. And I say that as a Lions fan. I know I'm wearing my NFC North champion shirt right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if we finish second. I just wouldn't. And it could be the Vikings. It could be the Bears. I mean, obviously, we probably should still be the favorites to win, but I would not be surprised by any outcome. So, obviously the Bears, they took Ben Johnson, which I think gives them another leg up. Just in terms of, a, that's a negative for us and a positive for them. So that's another tough one. But hopefully we will still be able to come out on top. But with that being said, I'll pass it over to you if you got anything for the Bears.
Um, the only thing I want to add to the Bears conversation, because I know I've touched on them a lot. I like their all season a lot. Um, I'll knock them just because they are the Bears. Fuck the Bears. Um, but they had a pretty impressive all season. Call a spade a spade. And this NFC North, I'm glad you mentioned it, is the black and blue division for a reason. I have brought up last year's standings for the whole NFC, and realistically, once again, it's early, start of the draft, all that. But realistically, as we sit here today, I believe that three of the top five NFC teams are all in the NFC North. So there's a chance, and I don't think it will happen, but there's a chance the Lions can finish third in this division of this upcoming season. That being said, I still think all three Bears, Lions, Vikings will make the playoffs. Like obviously we'll work on the seeding or whatever, but these three teams on paper are better than every team in the NFC other than Philly and Washington, in my opinion. Mix those two into there, and those are my top five teams in the NFC right now.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And I'm glad you brought up Washington because we will end the pod on a quick Washington talk because man, they've been having a really good offseason too. Like they traded for Laramie Tunsil, they traded for Debo Samuel. They've signed a couple good players there. And you know they just signed Michael Gallup today, so he's another good depth receiver for them. And I just feel like they still have some needs, of course, but they have a draft to fill those. Interior defensive line obviously is a big need for them still, but that's what this draft is deepest. So, I mean, it's kind of working out for them. I don't love that either because they whooped our fucking ass last year in the divisional and given Jaden Daniels just more protection and more weapons. Yippee ki yay, motherfucker! Like this is gonna be tough. I am not excited to see the Washington Commanders next year. Now, am I scared? No, it's similar to the Bears. I mean, difference is we beat the Bears both times, we beat the Packers both times, we beat the Vikings both times. We lost to the Commanders. So that's a team that I think, and I'm glad you put them in your top five because I'd say that's like a dark horse Super Bowl team next year. I think a lot of people, I think most people are like, wow, that's cool that Washington's getting Jaden some help, but I don't feel like that many people are really saying like, man, they could win their fucking division too. Like they could take over the NFC East from the Eagles next year, which obviously the Eagles are still the better team, but you know how it goes. You win a Super Bowl, there's some Super Bowl slump usually after that, and obviously they're still the best team in football, but they lost some guys. Washington gained some, so anything could happen over there. But with that being said, do you have anything else on Washington?
Oh, no, not really. Just echoing your sentiments because, like I said, they are in my top five. And I mean, they went 12-5 as is. They ended the regular season on a five-game win streak, and that was with rookie Jaden Daniels. I would imagine he doesn't peak as a rookie. I mean, obviously, it remains to be seen. I can't predict the future, but there's a good chance he gets better. Laramie Tunsil, in my opinion, is the second best left tackle in the NFL. So you just gave a young quarterback a large amount of protection. It's not just like you upgraded. There's a sizable upgrade. And then, as you said, you gave him Debo Samuel and Gallup. In addition to, they still got Scary Terry and Ertz, and they're teams that at this point in time, I won't say scare me, but they might be the scariest team in my opinion for the Lions. We don't handle running quarterbacks well. They have, like I said, with Debo, and they're kind of making their offense, in my opinion, like the Lions, where even a small check down can still end up being 20 yards because they have guys that can make you miss and extend the play. So even if you think you held them to a short gain, the play's not over until he's all the way down. They have a real good thing. I don't know who the GM of the Commanders is, but I'll give you your flowers. You're building a hell of a team over there.
Yeah, and actually, I believe it's Adam Peters who was I want to say the VP in San Francisco the last few years. So he knows how to build a team, and that's very apparent so far. And last thing I'll say is, adding on to your point, they're probably going to draft a running back too. I mean, Brian Robinson's good, don't get me wrong, but he's getting a little older, and this is a really deep running back class. They could end up with a stud at running back too, man. Like who knows what's going to happen in the draft? A lot of teams could do a lot of things. But with that being said, I appreciate you guys for watching. Y'all know what to do. Subscribe to the channel, number one, okay? Follow us on Twitter at MISportsMedia. Follow me on Twitter at JSoSweet. Follow James at Gullet_James. And find us at misportsmedia.com, and we will see you guys on the next one.